boys and girls, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to my local woodland. And spring, well, it's just about here now. It's been a bit of a late showing, but there are plenty of bluebells around, and they're going to be the subject of tonight's video. Just come down, chilled out photo walk around these woods, just taking in some of the early spring colour. A lot of bluebells. Let's go. It's really strange. I was here a week ago, not a bluebell, not a flower, nothing in sight. A week later, there seems to be an awful lot of bluebells on the walk around there. It's the photographs that you've already seen. Strange how things change within a week. I'm hoping as we get a little bit further around towards some more open spaces and some more interesting subjects, that the flowers are still there and be able to take some more photographs of bluebells. Like I say, it's one of my favourite times of the year. It's one of my favourite once a year little photo shoots. So what I'm using tonight is the OM System OM1 Mark II and the Olympus 12-40 Pro, the f2.8 version. And we're shooting Aperture Priority Mode because why not? Conditions don't really call for manual mode, so I'm shooting wide open at 2.8. Get some shallow depth of field, just sort of breaking the trees up, so a little bit of depth of field, you know, some blurry background trees and things like that. Just make the photographs look a little bit more interesting. Right, enough waffle. Let's head around a little bit further. There's a bench just around the corner. I'm hoping, like last year, there's a lot of bluebells around it and I can recreate the photograph that I overexposed last year and hopefully get a nice one. So let's get around there. Hopefully, a nice photograph of a bench and some bluebells. What an absolute shame. A year ago when I was around here, this entire area was just filled with bluebells. There's little pockets of them left, right and centre, but really I wanted the bluebells around the bench. What a shame. Seem to have disappeared. They may come back, it may be a bit early, I don't know. We've had some strange weather here in the UK. It's been really dry for the last month. A lot of bright sunshine or a lot of cloud. No real in-betweens. Maybe the weather. I'm not entirely sure. But let's talk through it. Let's talk about the forgotten camera mode, and that is Aperture Priority Mode. I mentioned it a little bit earlier on in the video, so let me talk to you for a little bit about why I shoot Aperture Priority Mode almost as much as I shoot manual. So that photograph there, shot Aperture Priority Mode, f2.8, ISO 200 and the 200th of a second. And the only setting I really needed to care about there was the aperture, and I've gone for wide open for shutter speed, and well, there's not really anything in the photograph that needs the depth. So wide open, nice fast shutter speed, happy days. And it's somewhere I feel comfortable shooting. If I'm in Aperture Priority Mode, I will often shoot wide open at the base ISO and nobody will take you seriously. Let's now get talking on the blue square, on the green square. What colour's the square? It's a rectangle. That one. Avoid that one. Aperture Priority Mode. It's the forgotten mode, isn't it? So interesting side note, my camera doesn't actually have any sort of auto mode. Never noticed that before. We have program, aperture priority, shutter speed, manual, bulb, 4 custom modes, and the video mode. I wonder if it's because it's flagship, it's not really aimed at people new at photography. I don't know, that's thrown me that. I half expected this camera to have some sort of automatic mode in it. Doesn't. I guess program's kind of automatic, isn't it? But you know what I'm saying? Look. I like that how with photography there are 15 different ways of doing one thing and achieving the same end result. But everybody has a different opinion. Everybody's way of doing things is slightly different. But the end result can always be the same. It's one of my favourite things. Like tonight, for instance, I could have walked around these woods in manual mode and, well, I would have taken exactly the same photos that I've taken in Aperture Priority Mode. But I'm just allowing the camera a little bit of freedom. I'm taking a couple of things off my mind. I'm just pointing the camera at what I like, and I'm allowing the camera to take the photograph for me. And it's really freeing. Instead of worrying and obsessing about camera settings, you can just go out there and take photographs. Now, yes, I can appreciate how shooting in manual mode will help people to understand the exposure triangle, aperture, shutter speed, ISO, maybe more of a square, because believe it or not, white balance does have a small but noticeable effect on exposure. And I can appreciate the argument is there to help people. You know, you can adjust each one of these settings individually, and you can also see how you have to tweak other things when your exposure starts going left, right, centre, upside down and diagonally. But you can also kind of do the same thing with Aperture Priority Mode. If I change the aperture on this, the shutter speed does change, and if I throw auto ISO on, I can also see that my ISO stays the same until I reach a point which I've set at, I believe it was a 50th of a second. There we go. So I can change my ISO, I can change my aperture. The exposure triangle is there, but like I say, the camera is just taking care of it for me. So pointing at this scene, f2.8 at 2/50th of a second, if I start scrolling through my aperture, f5 an 80th of a second. But as soon as I reach a 50th of a second at f7.1, the ISO starts to change. So you can also see the exposure triangle from Aperture Priority Mode. So why wouldn't you? And I guess this kind of leads into why I never share the EXIF data with you, despite people asking. You could plug in the same camera settings that I've just taken that photograph with. You could plug it into your camera, but you're not here now. You're not here at this location with me in these same lighting conditions, the same time of day, same time of year, etc, etc, etc. So the camera settings that a lot of people obsess over, they are in a way somewhat irrelevant, aren't they? I could go out and take a long exposure photograph at the beach and I could tell you that I shot it over 60 seconds, and that's the only thing that you would need to know. The aperture and the ISO and the strength of filters, that would depend on where you are and what you're doing, not where I am and what I'm doing. So let's stop obsessing over camera settings and just pick up the camera and go take some photographs with it. After all, that's what it's there for. So this little bit of video that you're watching right now, there is a fire that appears to be emanating from them woods. At least from my vantage point anyway. I'm not sure if it's in the woods or behind the woods. But the lack of any sort of rain we've had quite recently, it's quite alarming. I don't know if somebody needs to be alerted to this or what, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be the farmer at the farm that's doing it in the middle of the field, or if it's under control or whatnot, but just the dryness of the woodland where I've been tonight, it's a little bit concerning. I'll stay here for a few minutes and just kind of keep an eye on it a little bit. So the fire seems to be somewhat under control. There seems to be some farm vehicles sort of milling around in the field behind it, so I'm guessing whoever's got the fire is aware it's there, which is good, because I don't get phone signal out here very well. So anyway, I digress. So let's take a photograph of this little woodland scene here. It's quite a nice little scene. There are some nice little trees and everything. So we're at a 3/20th of a second, f2.8 and ISO 500. Let's have a look. So let's cam the ISO down a little bit, because it's just blinking some highlights up there. So if we speed the shutter speed up a little bit, trying to get rid of some of them blinking highlights really. Boom. There we go. Boosh. Lovely. Nice little woodland scene. Now, if my apparent confusion and messing about there with some camera settings made you wonder what on earth is going on, well, I need to let you in on a small but significant secret. You see, this evening's photographs, barring a couple of little segments of video where I've showed you the camera, they've all been shot in shutter speed priority mode. So just to get the brain thinking, despite me telling you that I was in aperture priority mode, and I've actually been in shutter speed priority mode, does that not beg the question, does it really matter what mode your camera's set in, as long as you get the photograph? So for this last photograph that I'm going to take, there are dead giveaways to what I'm actually doing and how my camera's set up. You can see I've got it on a tripod, which means I'm actually in manual mode for this one. And that's purely because the shutter speed is so low now, the light is so fading, and I want to get the depth of field that I really require manual mode here, just so I can get things exactly where I want them. So I'm down to 15th of a second, f5.6 and ISO 200, and that key one there is the ISO. I'm trying to keep it as low as possible. If I was in shutter speed priority mode, or aperture mode for that fact, the ISO would have been raised just a little bit, but there is no wind, there is very little movement, so 15th of a second is, well, it's going to be perfectly adequate for this photograph. I'm just going to spin around a little bit and give some of these tree roots just a little bit of breathing room on the left hand side of the photograph. I'm going to twist the camera a little bit more, and there we go. I'm angled down, I'm shooting towards the forest floor. Just getting this big tree, the base of it, a little fallen tree back there. You may recognise this from my last video. I came to the same spot and there's just an old tree a little bit off in the distance, and I'm trying to eliminate as much of the sky as possible here. So I've got touch, focus and take a picture on. If I just touch on that tree trunk there, try it again, it's quite fun, the camera takes a photograph for me. So here's that photograph, and then we'll recap the video. So as with all things photography, it's all about trade-offs, isn't it? It's all about trade-offs and compromises. There is no one size fits everything when it comes to a camera or photography or a lens. For me, if I'm walking around handheld, having a bit of a photo walk, having a bit of fun, I'll be in aperture priority mode, like I say, wide open and auto ISO on. And my camera is set to increase auto ISO at 50th of a second, and that just allows me to cover a couple of my favourite lenses. As soon as the zoom reaches a certain length and the light drops to a certain length, it will just start affecting the aperture rather than the shutter speed, just to enable some nice crispy handheld photographs. If I'm at the coast and I'm doing really long exposures, well, I'm not going to stand here for a minute because I'm all kind of twitchy and move about a lot, and I'm not going to get a sharp photograph. So in that situation, if the camera is on a tripod, I'm at the coast doing long exposure sunrises, then yes, the camera is in manual mode. But an argument could also be made for shutter speed priority mode. If you're photographing motorsports, motorbikes, birds, wildlife, and you want a nice fast shutter speed, I would recommend throwing the camera in the S mode and setting your shutter speed 1000, 1500, 2000, and let the camera do things for you. It's inevitably going to pick the widest aperture, isn't it, to get the shutter speeds, and in doing so it should hopefully help keep your ISO at a reasonable value as well. Like I said a little bit earlier on in the video, for the kind of photography I do, at the end of the day it doesn't matter what camera mode I'm in, as long as I get the photograph. So thank you very much for watching today's little walk around the woods, and I hope some of what I've said has actually made some sense to you, because it kind of makes sense to me. Just to recap, camera mode doesn't really matter. So yeah, so thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and a like. It does help to bring new viewers to see my content. And if you're new here, seeing me for the very first time, please do hit that subscribe button down below. You can see more micro four thirds nonsense from myself every single week. So until next time, I love you and leave you and say peace and goodbye.